assists, 48 tackles, and 10...
46 tackles.
46 tackles, sorry, and 10 marker tackles. What did I say?
You said 48.
I can't read. I can't even read type numbers. I'm too excited about Liam Farrell. That's what's going on.
Yeah, rein yourself in. Sam Powell did not make 48 tackles.
Still, he made 46 with 10 marker tackles. Rob Mulhern, 126 metres. Dean Hadley, 46 tackles, 10 of which were marker tackles. 130 metres as well for the former Hull FC man.
Yeah. Tom Andrews got in touch and said, considering I was expecting a standard Rovers at the DW rogering and the fact we rested players, I think we did all right. Mikey Lewis looked impressive if a little soft on defence, but how many 18 or any age halfbacks attacking machines? Onwards to the big game against Wakey. Hopefully the smelly sods across the river do us a favour on Sunday.
Well, we'll find out whether they did shortly. White Pie said, a tale of two halves. Wigan very sloppy in the first half in defence, but for KR bombing 2 tries, we were lucky to go in at half-time level. More controlled after half-time, and Farrell makes such a difference. French showed some good signs and will only get better. Yeah, Bevan French came off the bench for the last 20 minutes or so of the game, and I've got to be honest with you, he's bigger than I thought he was.
Yeah.
I knew he was fast, but he's bigger than I thought he was. He's going to be a weapon when he gets up and running properly. So I'm quite excited about that. I know I said last week or the week before that I'm kind of on the fence a bit yet without signing, but early signs, I'm quite excited. In terms of the game, I think the one thing I could say about this game is I don't remember a game where I've seen so many forward passes. There was a lot of forward passes given. There was a hell of a lot of forward passes not given. The only one...
That's standard fare when you watch Wigan.
The only one that had any sort of impact, really, was in the build-up to Joe Burgess's try, his 100th try for Wigan. There was a clear forward pass from Williams out to Gildart in the build-up to that, and at that stage it was 18 all before Wigan scored that try. But there was a remarkable amount of forward passes out of dummy half. Wigan had a couple, and they were both pulled up actually, but Jez Litton had about 4 or 5 when he came off the bench. I'm not really sure what went on there.
He must have learnt bad habits as he went across the river.
I think possibly, he's not used to the timing of the team aren't used to the timing of each other yet. It was only his second game, wasn't it, for Rovers? So there may be a bit of mitigation there. But yeah, there was a lot on both sides, that's for sure. I do think, even though one of the tries had a forward pass in the build-up, I do think at that stage it was Wigan's game to win. In the first half, Rob Mulhern dropped a sitter and Adam Quinlan put in a terrible kick when there was players in space out wide that surely should have been a try for Hull KR. They were a couple of bomb chances for them. Wigan had some good field position as well, where they just didn't quite execute properly a couple of times as well. Kind of slow play, really. Hardacre was great coming out of his own end, great defensively, but in joining in the attacks in the top 20 of the pitch, he wasn't really that sharp this week. So there was a bit of both teams wasted chances in the first half. Certainly there could have been more points, but in the second half Wigan were far the better side and didn't make hardly any errors in the second half, didn't Wigan, and that was why they pulled away in the end, whereas Hull KR didn't really look to have any answers to Wigan's defence in the second half. So I don't think I think the result was the right one based on what the action was. Farrell was man of the match for me. I think George Williams got man of the match in the stadium, and he had a few really good moments. I mean, his individual solo try for the first try of the game was definitely one of the highlight moments of the game, but I think Farrell's try, a second try for Farrell, which again involved a really important part of play by George Williams, taking on the defence, standing up in a tackle, getting the offload away to Farrell, who turned Quinlan inside out and ran across the pitch to go and score. That was probably my highlight moment of the game. But yeah, deserved win for Wigan. Good.
Yeah, I listened to some of the radio commentary because I was attempting to buy some T-shirts for Luke, which is always a traumatic experience.
It sounds like that's a story that needs more detail.
He's just so fussy.
Okay.
But he was going away. He's away for a week, so he needed more clothes. And honestly, it's just nightmare. But
it was made easier by listening to KR get beat.
Well, we were listening, and they were at half time. They were full of actually how Rovers had more chances than Wigan, but just blown them, and really they thought that they'd be pulling away in the second half and all the rest of it. So it was a bit of a shock when I then saw the result.
I think that's a fair assessment of the first half. I don't know how they could have assumed that Rovers would pull away in the second half. The young kid at halfback had a couple of mistakes in him. Certainly whiffed on a couple of tackles. That's for certain. But again, he showed resilience. He definitely had a lot of the ball, and he demanded the ball, which I think was good to see. And I mentioned about Hull FC and Hull KR working together. Dean Hadley, why have you let them get him? In the first 20 minutes, he must have touched the ball more than any other Hull KR player, and he made as many tackles as anyone else as well on the pitch. So now that we've got the numbers corrected.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think he wanted guarantee of more game time than Radford was prepared to give him.
And also, you guys must have wanted assurances that the derby will be on next year, because this Hull KR side that played on Friday night, I think they were just a little bit of composure and a little bit of fitness away from being a side that is competitive. So I think against lesser sides than the top 5 sides, and this Hull KR team should pick up the win or two that they need to secure the safety. I would like to think so anyway, because I think Super League's better with them in it than without them in it, I feel.
Yeah, I'd quite happily see them go bust.
I'm not sure I believe you. Come on, you must enjoy beating them in the derby.
Absolutely hate everything about them.
Fair enough. Let's move on to Saturday's action then. What have you got to tell us about Castleford and London?
Well, it was 4-6 to Castleford at half-time and finished 20 points to 6 at full-time in front of 5,497 people, refereed by Scott Mikulauskis. The stats suggest a more dominant Castleford performance than the scoreline does. 397 more metres at 1.4 metre per carry, better average gain and 4 more breaks, as well as fewer penalties conceded and a better tackle success rate. Errors were one area that held Cas back a little, making 3 more than London. In terms of individual stats, the winners, Castleford, Paul McShane made 51 tackles, with 11 mark tackles. James Clare with 5 tackle busts and 139 metres. Jordan Rankin with 5 tackle busts and 134 metres. Dan Smith and 133 metres. For London, Rhys Williams made 101 metres and Luke Yates made 44 tackles and 117 metres.
It's the familiar names for London on the stats roundup, isn't it? Fatboy Rob said, Cas were dire in the first half, slightly less dire in the second. London were just dire. But the most dire thing about this match was Scott Mikulauskis. He disallowed a try for a tackle in the air when Rankin jumped higher and caught the ball and gave Cas numerous penalties with no signal, so I've no idea why. Jamie Ellis played well on his return and O'Neill got his first senior try, so it wasn't all bad. Roll on 2020. Rob, you're only points difference outside the playoffs, pal.
Tom Andrews said, always liked Cas, never had a bad word to say about them. Come on, you Ford.
So from what you've managed to see and read about this game, who does it seem like were the important players for Cas's win?
Jordan Rankin seems to have had a very good game for Castleford, and been instrumental in quite a lot, as well as... No, he didn't score in the end, did he? Because it was disallowed. But yeah, he seemed to have had a good game. And Jesse Fenulafeo, I think, as well, sort of gave them a bit more go forward. But a lot has seems to have revolved around Mikulauskis and some of his decisions, from what I've seen. I don't know what you have heard or seen.
Not very much. Not very much. I know that there was dissatisfaction with that Jordan Rankin try, but I've not actually seen the try. What I would say is I always think Cass are better when Oliver Holmes is playing.
Yeah.
And I think he's a really important player to them, and he scored a really good try in the game as well. That was kind of crucial because it came just after half time when Cass were behind at half time, which probably was surprising.
Matautia had a bad game kicking wise, which I guess makes it less convincing than it would have done.
Fair shout, yeah.
Jamie Ellis took over the conversions after that, didn't he?
He did,
24-6 sounds a bit more convincing, doesn't it? There
was a couple of charges in the game, I think, and I was definitely expecting one for the fullback Alex Walker, because when Tui Agoda went over for his try, reportedly they're going to be, Tui Agoda is going to be at London next year, but I suppose Alex Walker probably isn't going to be. But there was knees in there, but that resulted in a grade A no match ban. So we got away with that, and Rob Butler's picked up a 1 match ban as well for London, but it doesn't seem like he was disciplined more than a penalty in the game. So maybe there were some instances. Rob's comment about referees not signalling what the penalty is for. I don't like bagging referees, and I don't like criticising the match officials and stuff like that. But that is one area that I think when we're in the crowd, it really does.
Yeah.
It helps. Like sometimes, when you got a game and there's the screen. And so you might blow up about a decision, but then watch it back on the screen and realise, oh yeah, actually the referee knows more than I know, and that sort of stuff. It helps a little as well when you see a penalty given and you're not sure why, but then when they give a signal, you at least think, well, I can't see if that was or wasn't right. But if they don't give a signal, you kind of don't come back off the point of view of a fan of, I just don't like that the referee gave a penalty against.
And also, I think if they give a signal, then the next time that penalty is given, you can go, well, all right then, that's obviously something that they're hot on tonight. Whereas if the signal isn't given, then if the decision is given again, you don't know that it's been given again because you don't know it was given in the first place. Does that make sense?
Completely makes sense. Yeah, exactly. You don't understand what's going on, and it's hard enough on the terraces sometimes when we don't know what's going on. So when you're not getting help from the people on the pitch to tell you what's going on, it's even worse. Rob said it was dire. I wasn't particularly. I had to watch the highlights twice because the first time I just kind of switched off, forgot that I was watching highlights to talk about on the show. So I don't know if you picked out any moments that were particularly exciting from the highlights of this game.
No, not really. Like you say, it didn't really feel much like highlights. To be honest, it feels like it's been a bit of a weekend for that.
I know what you mean. Like, I do know.
I know
what
we've
you
not
mean.
come to our match yet, but again.
Well, it's actually when I was sort of mapping out what I was going to talk about when we wrapped up the weekend. One of the things I was thinking of saying was a lot of what I would call highlight plays of the weekend actually tended to come off really shit defence, like horrible tackling attempts or just absent tackling attempts. And so it kind of made you feel like, where was the intensity? And then is it really that great a play when there's no defenders making any attempt to tackle, sort of thing? So I get what you mean. Yeah, I do get what you mean, totally. Shall we move on to Sunday then and see if that brings any more bright spots for us? The fifth game of the weekend was Salford versus Huddersfield. It was 10-6 to Salford at half-time. They pulled away in the second half to end up 32 points to 12 winners. Marcus Griffiths was the referee, and there was 3,032 there. In terms of the stats, over 500 more metres at 1.1 metre per carry better average gain, but Salford actually made one fewer break, which is weird in that scoreline, but that's what the stats say. I double-checked it, and that's what the stats say. Niall Levels individually, 1 try assist, 147 metres. Josh Jones.
He's having a really good season, isn't he?
He is a fantastic player, and it looks like one of the ones that maybe, I don't know if they're going to hold on to him or not, but whoever gets him, if Salford don't hold on to him, will have an absolute class fullback on the hands. A player who also is impressing this season, Sarah, so you might be quite excited about this one. Josh Jones, 7 tackle balls, 177 metres, 5 successful offloads. When you're talking about impact players who can